There are more than 100 unique styles of beer, each with their own set of ingredients, process, guidelines, history, and experience. If you're a beer lover, an industry leader, or somewhere in between, a better knowledge of beer style will improve your life and your work.
Welcome to A Sense of Beer Style, essential beer style training for those who want to lead in food and beverage. I'm Julia Herz.
And I'm Jeremy Storton.
We're advanced Cicerones, beer judges, home brewers, and we're excited to guide you through the vast and wonderful world of beer styles.
Welcome back to the Sense of Beer Style, everyone. Hello, Julia.
Hello, right back.
I've got a little story for everyone. Once upon a time, as every good story ought to start, I had the incredible opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with legendary brewmaster from Rogue Brewery in the coastal Oregon, John Meyer. He's someone who put craft beer on the map, Oregon beer on the map. He's dripping with GABF awards. But he is now since retired, and I was able to meet with him before he retired. And the conversation went like this. There was a time when there was a hop shortage. And so he and Rogue had to source their Cascade hops from Argentina. And what he learned and what he told me is they don't taste the same down there. It was a completely different hop. And I thought, what an interesting idea about the terroir of hops. And so these styles that we're going to talk about today, we're really going to lean into the what's that word? Particularity, whatever that word is, the particular nuances of these ingredients from where they're from. And that's, we may pull an IPA from England, take it to America, but when we send it to Mexico, when we send it to Argentina, when we send it to France and use the hops grown there, it's going to be different. And this is really where these Appendix B on the BJCP guidelines, it really starts diving into local styles that are emerging as trends that may come out. And I think this is our future. I think local styles and local iterations of these styles that we know and love are going to become commonplace. An American IPA versus a British IPA versus a West Coast, East Coast, South American, South European IPA. These are all going to be things that we talk about 5-10 years down the road. Mark my words. And so we've got a couple styles that we're going to just gloss over today. We're not going to get into the weeds. If you want to read about them, you certainly can. But these are styles you're not likely to come across unless you're in Argentina. You may brew them yourself. But if you're studying these for any test, these are not going to be on that test, to be honest. This is just, hey, just so you know, this is coming down the pike. These two styles that we're going to talk about it's called X1, the Dorada Pampeana, or the Pampas Golden Ale. Pampas is just kind of the region right around Buenos Aires. And so this is the Dorada Pampeana. And the next style would be the Argentine IPA, or the IPA Argenta. What do you want to add to this whole conversation, Julia? You just recently returned from Argentina. What did you learn?
Yeah, I was in Argentina and honored enough to be one of the coveted judges at the Copa Argentina de Cervecerías, or otherwise known as the Argentine Beer Cup, put on by an incredible group of people. Literally, Jeremy, I was in Argentina, Buenos Aires for 3 days, and I came away, feeling like a dignitary. They took it very seriously. B, it's not just about Argentinian Malbec. It's about Argentinian beer. And so much so that,
Malbec
not every
and
and not every country has their own local styles in the guidelines. There's a reason for that, because not every country is busy up in the game like Argentina is. So, South America, there was so much pride at this beer cup, and I judged best of show, deciding medal winners, and I was judging with local judges, and it was an excellent reminder of, you have to pay attention not just to what the style guidelines say, but what the beers being produced that made those words be written are about. So that's my first point. My second point is when you go to the Beer Judge Certification Program 2021 guidelines and you read these styles, I was very refreshed to see that they were both written in English, and that's the second version, and also in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So the Argentine styles are lead with the Spanish, and that's we're so Americanized, and I'm at fault as well. So way to go, BJCP, paying attention to local styles in countries that have game, and not every country has two styles, right? Jeremy just told you there's two local styles under the X for Argentina. So really important distinctions there, and that the style guidelines only take you so far. And as we get into the sensory of it, I can kind of share at least my experience with Argentine IPA, and go from there. But don't take words always as written. That's why beer study has to be about tasting from the country of origin, often in the country of origin, as much as the reading and the reciting of what the style is supposed to be all about.
Yeah. So let's dive into, first of all, let's talk about the Dorada Pampeana, or the Pampas Golden Ale. So basically, these the story as I understand it, and just a quick disclosure, I have not tasted this. I have not experienced this. I am reading this as well, but this is just a, just so you know, from Uncle Jer segment, right? So as I understand it, home brewers down in Argentina were trying to come up with something, and their supply of brewing ingredients is fairly limited. So they were making basically a version of a blonde ale, and they were getting some of their local Cascade hops that taste different. Like John Meyer taught me, it tastes different from Argentina than it does from Oregon, than it does from Idaho, than it does from New York, than it does from anywhere else. And so what really came out of this was not just a blonde ale like a blonde ale anywhere else, but a blonde ale as the Argentines view it, as they experience it. And so when we talk about a sense of place, when we talk about a sense of time, I cannot wait till the day that I get to go have an Argentine blonde ale or a golden ale, especially with their Argentine steak and chimichurri sauce. I'm jumping ahead to pairings, but it's just a way to manifest culture through flavor, and I can't wait.
Yeah. It's great. And it's all about using the ingredients that are available to you,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what you're, I think, getting at with this individual style example. Jeremy, do you want to dive in further to the golden ale, or do you want to kind of keep high level and move on to the Argentine IPA a little bit?
Well, let's we started with the golden ale. We'll get back to the IPA in just a minute. Let's dive into a little bit of detail. I didn't want to go too deep because anyone can read this stuff. But dive in as far as you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we usually cover, when we do the style guidelines for our study, anchoring the ingredients, and Jeremy definitely
Yeah.
talked about them. But it's, like I said, about what was available to the home brewers and the essence of pale or Pilsner malt, right? Caramel malt, from what I think many in the country were being exposed to and thinking about with English beer approaches, and those Cascade hops, which basically were because of the influence from the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and some type of American yeast. Obviously, ale would be the ode to that for a golden ale. So American ale yeast. And that's what it is. That's the gist of what's going to construct the flavor profile for this beer. You're not seeing big indication of water profile, so I think that's interesting. And it's really more about what was available to them. And I love the Cascade hops in Argentina, especially if you're getting some that are actually grown there now, are displaying differently than Cascade hops in the States. Just like when you take a French grape and start to grow it in Napa, right? Or, a German grape and grow it in France. So there's different nuance there, but those ingredients that I just mentioned are the kind of anchor for what makes this style.
And one of the things I noticed too is, we have to talk about ingredients. We have to talk about process as well. Uh, to make this golden ale, they can use a neutrally clean fermentation American yeast. They can use kind of a fruity British yeast, or oftentimes they'll use a Kolsch yeast and ferment it a little bit cool. So it can be a hybrid beer as well. But I mean, just what a range. It could be a this or a that, or maybe in between as well. So it's hard to kind of put your thumb on exactly what this is. But Julia, you already mentioned this. We can read about it, or we can go to Argentina and truly experience it. And then after we experience it, then can we truly understand it? So
Yeah, and it's going to bring you to wonderful aroma and flavor profiles. Light to moderate sweet malt aroma is indicated when you're smelling it, right?
mm-hmm.
You are going to have they maybe some low moderate fruitiness that could be the yeast esters or from the hops actually. And you're not supposed to have diacetyl. So that
Yeah.
literally grounds us and gets us towards flavor. Once you kind of dial in on the aroma, you'll maybe want more, and I certainly do.
I can only think of like two styles that think diacetyl. Okay, a little bit's all right, but this is not one of them. So no
Right, right.
diacetyl, right? So when we get into the Argentine IPA, again, everyone watching and listening to this, we know IPA, we know British from West Coast, from East Coast. So this is an Argentine IPA. Again, we're getting into the character of the local ingredients, specifically the local hops. So well, before I get into the hops, they're going to use a pale malt as a base, but they can and oftentimes do use wheat, whether it's malted or unmalted. And so think about the flavors that would come out of that, especially if it's malted wheat. It can come across as just kind of like doughy and kind of a lemon zing and give an impression of sourness without necessarily being sour. So, I mean, that's a game changer right there. Then we get into Argentine hops, and we talked about Argentines have a completely different cascade. They have a completely different nugget. Spalt, Victoria, Bouillon, Mapuche. These are all hops that we may have had these somewhere else, but in different soil and different climate and different terroir, they're just going to be different. So the other thing they mentioned on this as well is they do talk about a water profile for this particular style, and it describes it to being soft to medium sulfate rich, and so that is really going to take those hops and pull them into sharper focus and really let those hops stand out. So not only is the beer kind of setting the stage to let the hops just sing, but these hops are going to sing in a completely different way than we're used to, and I can't wait to try that. Did you try one of these while you were down there?
Yeah, I judged and tasted multiple ones of them, and it was enlightening. Back to my comment from earlier of you can't just base what you think a beer is supposed to be like on what the style guidelines
Yeah.
say. A tangible example of that is if you were to read the style guidelines for Argentine
Yep.
IPA, and under the history, it talks about. I mean, I met incredible people behind the Somos Cervecerías Association who actually created this style. They said in 2013 as a group from their meetings to say, "Hey, let's put ourselves on the map with our own IPA." If you're going to take wheat and you're going to kind of throw in the notion of wit, even though they're not putting the spicing of the wit, and then you're going to call it an IPA, this is not a white IPA. This is not. But your mind might think that it's supposed to go to that direction for a white IPA, which is somewhat like a wit beer version of an IPA that American brewers certainly have made. And it's not just with Cascade in the hop profile. Jeremy mentioned a few. So I would say that these beers are going to continue to evolve because I think IPAs. Look at in America, look in the States. Jeremy, I'm going to put everybody on a nice little like discussion moment here. If I say, what do you think an IPA is supposed to taste like? Your brain's going to explode because you're going to be like, wait, what do you mean? Should it be juicy, hazy, clear,
What kind of
bitter, West
IPA?
Coast? Yeah, what color? Da, 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 da. And that's the evolution of a style. And so I think that Argentine IPA will continue to evolve as our brewers in the country of origin continue to take it further and say maybe develop the water profile, continue to use and grow more local hops. But this is definitely the one, in my view, that was handed to me the most, and the one that is, I think, putting people on the map in that area to say, oh, people are talking about what we're doing because we have a style that nobody else is making, or at least we want more people to make. And so that's what was most exciting to me.
And that's what excites me about this entire category, this local beer category, because and we Americans have done this over and over and over again, where we take an existing style, put our little thumbprint on it, and change it, call it our own. Next thing you know, it's a new style. But imagine that happening around the world. And this category is just the tiny little window, just a little keyhole looking out the door into what the rest of the world is doing, and taking the styles that we've been talking about in all of our style casts for the last couple years. They're taking those styles and they're putting their own little twist on it. And years from now, we're going to see the fruits of that labor. And that's what excites me the most.
Yeah, and I want to kind of tip my hat to the Bowen family. You've got a father and son and wife and cousins, and I mean Nico, Martin, Carolina. The group there is doing it, and they're the ones that are putting on the South African Beer Cup. And what it takes, I think, is somebody that understands, let's put our country on the map by hosting beer competitions that we bring in international judges, by creating styles locally, by growing the homebrewing scene that is definitely more than just fledgling. It's emerged. I talked to so many homebrewers while I was there in the week judging, often more and most than talking to going across the U.S. So it was really refreshing and exciting, and a tip of the hat to the wonderful family that's getting it done.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about these styles coming from Argentina?
I would just say, if you're studying for BJCP, you do need to know the local styles. Our other style casts, as we get to them, will cover other local styles from different countries as well. But worth seeking out, worth reading and knowing about. Don't bypass them, because if you truly want your pool cue sharpened and to have a 360-degree view of all the styles covered in the 2021 guidelines, then these need to be on your list.
Yep. I mentioned this before. I just want to make sure we tap our foot firmly on this. Argentina, not only is it known for its Malbec and its wine, but it's also known for its particular brand of barbecue. And so when I think about these beers, I'm willing to bet you a beer that they will go great with Argentine barbecue, chimichurri sauce, and all the wonderful food that comes down there. And so it just really invites you to travel and explore and connect. And really, with that, I would say que tengan un buen viaje, especialmente con cerveza. Salud.
Salud.
Thank you for listening to A Sense of Beer Style, the essential beer style training for those who want to lead in food and beverage. With advanced Cicerones, me, Julia,
and me, Jeremy.
Tune into the next episode as we continue exploring the world of beer styles and what to make of them. We encourage you to listen to the prepisodes to build your foundation and better understand beer styles.
And before the next episode, I'd like to ask you to review the show and let us know what you'd like featured in upcoming episodes. Until next time, here's to you and your sense of beer style. Thank you for listening. Cheers.